Hey, I'm Hunt, and this is Hunt on LSU, your channel for LSU Fighting Tiger football talk. Enjoy the video. We want you to leave a comment below, hit that like button, and subscribe right below the video. Enjoy. Emery Jones met with the media yesterday. Wanted to hear a couple of things, what he had to say. Obviously, coming in as a true freshman and playing right tackle as a starter is very, very rare, and it's probably even more rare to go out there and start your sophomore year there only to have a freshman come in and take some reps and move you down a spot into the right guard spot. But Emery Jones spoke about that, and he kind of enjoys playing a little bit of guard.
It's actually been fun. Coach Davis always teaches us, across the board. So I kind of watch guys get coached every day, and I kind of know what to do. Got a general idea what to do and everything. So it's just been a fun transition. I'm showing my flexibility on the O-line, which I think is going to be a great thing in the future, and I've been having fun.
That for sure is true. If you can get to the NFL level and prove that you can play guard and tackle, that really adds value because you can play two spots and they don't have to use two roster spots on that. Now, I know there are a lot of you out there that don't give a rip what guys can do in the future, and the Harold Perkins sirens go off in your head, and I get that. It's all about what LSU needs to do, but there's got to be a focus on your professional life moving forward, and I think Emery has that, all the while doing what he can to make LSU as good as it can be. And if that's play guard, then it's play guard. And if he's playing guard, that means Lance Hurd is going to play tackle, and he's going to need a little bit of help in that regard. Now, it's a nice thing for Lance Hurd to be able to look immediately to his left and go, hey, by the way, you just did what I'm doing here, playing tackle as a freshman in the SEC. What's that like?
Coming in at tackle, I had a whole bunch of questions. Why is this like this? Or when this picture happens, what do I need to think? And I just been kind of trying to help him think the right way about things, like gap zone. You need to start with your eyes outside instead of inside, to assess the edge. So I've just been doing little things like that to kind of get his mind in the right spot. And I feel like he's been doing a great job at, picking up.
That's a big deal because coaches can coach and they coach and they coach, but the firsthand experience from a peer, I think, is really huge. And I think we can all tell that this is heading one direction. This is heading to a right side of the offensive line that is Lance Hurd at right tackle and Emery Jones at right guard. It may not start that way to open the game on the road in the SEC on Saturday morning. Maybe not. At some point, Lance Hurd is going to come in. And it would shock me if we got to Thanksgiving and Lance Hurd was not the starter at right tackle. I think that is just too obvious a path. It was very obvious to us when we went out to the scrimmage with 2.5 weeks to go before the season started, and you looked up and they were trying Lance Hurd at right tackle with the ones. It's obvious when you hear Brian Kelly say after the first game that Lance Hurd's going to work with the ones, and then in the Grambling game he does work with the ones, and you've got Emery Jones talking about tutoring him with the ones. Like, this is coming. It's just a matter of how quickly they feel comfortable making that move, and there are a lot of variables there. It's communication, it's ability to block SEC edge rushers and live out there on an island. And look, Emery Jones did that last year as a freshman after the first game of the season. So for Lance Hurd to have that, I think, is invaluable in terms of mentorship. The question is, how much does it improve your offensive line? And Emery Jones spoke to what he's seen from the offensive line over the last 2 weeks.
I've seen us improving as far as like playing as one. It's hard to get 5 guys to be thinking the same mindset, and I think Charles Turner, our center, has been doing a great job at communicating to everybody, make sure everybody knows exactly what to do. And I feel like everybody's kind of buying into the process. Coach Kelly always talks about the process, and I feel like in that room, we all are buying into that.
They got a dose of medicine against Florida State. There's really no other way to say it. LSU couldn't run the ball at all. They got stuffed on 4th downs early in the game. There was pressure on Jaden Daniels most of the game. It was not a good effort from the offensive line. And for this team to get where it wants to get and to win the games that it should win, you're going to have to play better on the offensive front. And whether that's a personnel change or just better execution all the way across the board, that's what it's going to have to be. And if you can get more physical at both right sides, that probably helps you. Emery Jones is a little more physical than Miles Frazier, and Lance Hurd's bigger and more imposing than Emery Jones. So we'll see if that group can muster a push. But it's not like the left side of the line was knocking everybody out of the way against Florida State. That wasn't the case either, so they're going to have to improve, and obviously Emery Jones feels like they're working in that direction. Mississippi State, when you think of them, and we just had Brian Haydad on in the last segment, he was talking about Mississippi State defense. There's not a Montez Sweat. There's not a Jeffrey Simmons on this group that's going to go in the first 25 picks in the draft. And Mississippi State's had those guys up front, a lot of them over the years. I mean, you look at the NFL, and it's littered with guys who played in the front seven defensively for Mississippi State. It is a physical group, but it doesn't have that star power on the defensive front. Emery Jones spoke about what he did see from this front.
You know, they don't have a whole bunch of star players, so what they do is kind of move guys around a lot. Like every play, first, second down, they're moving guys, line games, stuff like that, just kind of making you play it true. You know, you got to be able to respond to movement, and I feel like in our O-line room, we're doing a great job of doing that. You know, we're buying into the game plan. Everybody's, you know, bought in. So I feel like we're going to do great blocking their movement and, you know, busting runs.
A lot of folks on the Mississippi State side of things, particularly in the media, and look, I'm a Homer media person, like raising every hand I've got. Like I fully fall into that category. The Texags folks, the Mississippi State people I'm about to talk about, me. I am self-aware, Homer, LSU media guy right here. But there are those that cover Mississippi State that have Mississippi State ties that have a huge inferiority complex when it comes to the perception of Mississippi State. And I've seen this in multiple situations. I saw when Mississippi State was picked last in the SEC West at Media Days. Immediately, Robbie Falk of 24/7, who does Thunder and Lightning with Brian Haydad, came out with a huge rebuttal of how Mississippi State's always picked last and they never finished last. Huge deal. And it was already ready for print once it happened. It wasn't like he saw it and then went and wrote the story. It went up immediately. They knew it was coming and wanted to rebut the entire thing. That's kind of an inferiority complex with Mississippi State. In the same vein, Steve Robinson, who has worked for Scout and wherever else he is now, Gene's Page at some point, he took this Emery Jones quote that we just played and ran with it. And Casey, if you can go back and play that one again, we'll play number 6, so the fourth one we played. Listen to the beginning of it.
You know, they don't have a whole bunch of star players, so what they do is
they don't have a bunch of star players. And Steve Robinson took it, posted it right there on his Twitter feed, wrote a story on it, like the whole lot. That's just kind of the way Mississippi State thinks. Fact of the matter is they don't have a star player. Like Jet Johnson is a great college linebacker who led the SEC in tackling last year. They don't have Jeffrey Simmons, who's a terror in the NFL. Danico Autry. There's lots of Mississippi State guys in the NFL. But they took that quote and ran with it. I think Emery Jones is kind of telling the truth, going, you know what? They don't have the one guy who kind of dominates, but they do a lot of things to disguise what they do up front. And they move around, and you've got to make sure you have communication. And I think this is a good Mississippi State defense. There's a reason I picked this team in my power rankings as the 5th best team in the SEC when they haven't done a ton through 2 weeks to prove that. It's because I think with Zach Arnett calling this defense, with as many seniors as they've got, they're going to be pretty tough on their home field. And hopefully LSU can block them. I mentioned the front, the environment is a factor here too.
Yeah, I'm excited. I never got to experience the cowbells. I kind of just heard it on the TV, and you can hear the announcers talking, and you hear the bells ringing. So it's going to be exciting to kind of be in that environment and kind of get in that stadium.
And I mentioned this in the first hour, and don't have to rehash it a ton, but I do take a little solace in the fact that Jaden Daniels has been in an environment like this, has played on the road in the SEC, understands the crowd noise. He's a really old player. He's about as experienced a quarterback as you're going to have. He's the 3rd most experienced quarterback in college football. So it is loud there, and that cowbell thing probably shouldn't be legal, but it's their thing. They're going to do it. If LSU or A&M allowed cowbells and you had 100,000 people ringing cowbells, no one would ever be able to talk down on the field. But because Mississippi State's got 50,000, they're going to ring cowbells, and that's what they're going to do. It's loud, I promise you. I was there in 2007. I was there in 2009. I was there in 2011. I was there in 2013. It's loud. Some of those games, LSU quieted them down pretty quick. The 2007 game comes to mind. But they are loud, and LSU's going to have to do a good job of communication, and that does include Emery Jones, if he's at right guard, dealing with a freshman at right tackle, because you don't want to be late to the snap count against a veteran. I mean, you're talking about a right tackle, if Lance Hurd plays out there, who's 18, 19 years old, playing against 21, 22, 23-year-olds on Mississippi State's team. Like, that's an advantage for those guys, especially if Lance Hurd's late getting out of his break because he can't hear or can't see because of the cowbell. It's part of the deal. So LSU's going to have to handle the environment coming up on Saturday in Starkville. Hey, thanks for watching Hunt on LSU. Before you get out of here, do us a couple of favors. Hit that like button, leave your comments below, and subscribe to the channel for all your Fighting Tiger football talk. See you next time.